We'll now begin our discussion on finding the area under the standard normal distribution curve. Our first example asks us to find the area under the standard normal distribution curve between z is equal to 0 and z is equal to 1.64. We want to begin each problem by drawing a picture of the standard normal distribution curve. Remember that the mean is down the middle, and it's always equal to 0. This line across the bottom we're going to refer to as a z-axis. It is where our z-scores are going to be located. It works similar to a regular number line in that on the right-hand side of 0 we'll have the positive numbers, and on the left-hand side of 0 we'll have the negative numbers. So we want to go ahead and mark off a positive 1.64. Now I don't know exactly where that number is, but I do know that it is somewhere on the right-hand side of the curve. And so I'm going to go ahead and draw a line, and I'm going to call this 1.64. And the problem asks me to find the area in between these two numbers. And so I'm going to go ahead and shade in this section in between the z is equal to 0 and the z is equal to 1.64. Now, in order to find that area, we're going to use a table that is in your textbook and that I have emailed you. So if you take a look at your table, and I have a portion of the table over on the right-hand side, we're going to look up that 1.64 value. And so the way that you're going to do that is you are going to take the first two digits of your number, so the 1.6, and you're going to go down the left-hand column of the table until you find 1.6. Then you're going to look at your 100th place digit, and you're going to find that across the top. And you'll intersect that column and that row. And if you look at your table, you should see when you do that the number 0.4495. And so 0.4495 is this area of that shaded region. Now, it is important to note that the only thing that this table will help us do in terms of finding the area is finding the area between 0 and a z-score. If you notice at the bottom of your table, you have a picture that looks like this. So, as long as your picture for the problem looks exactly like this picture at the bottom of the table, then you are good to go. You simply look up your z-score and write down your corresponding area, and you have your answer. Let's try another example. Find the area under the standard normal distribution curve between z is equal to 0 and z is equal to, this time, a negative 1.53. All right, so again, I'm going to start out the same way. I'm going to start out by drawing a picture of my curve. I'm going to draw my line down the middle, knowing that that's my mean, and I'm going to mark it off as 0. Now I also need to mark off negative 1.53. So remember that your negative numbers are on the left. We don't exactly know where on the left, but it doesn't really matter. So pick a place on the left-hand side of the curve, draw a line, and we're going to mark that in as 1.53, or negative 1.53. All right, and the problem asks us to find the area in between 0 and negative 1.53, and so I'm going to shade in that section. Okay, now if you notice in your table, you do not have any negative values. So the best you're going to be able to do is to look this up as a positive 1.53. All right, so I want to show you something just for a second, and if we were in class I would tell you not to write this part down, but just to watch. What I'm going to do is, since the table only has positive numbers, I'm going to draw a line on the right hand side of the curve, and note that that line is 1.53, positive. And so if I go to my table now and I look up 1.53, okay, so remember that you're going to use the first two digits, so the 1.5 and the hundredth place digit across the top, so we'll use the 0.03, and we're going to intersect that row and that column, and we should be sitting at 0.4370. And so we know that if we look up something in the table, it gives us the area from 0 to the number that we looked up. Remember that it has to match our picture. So from 0 to positive 1.53 is 4370. So right in here is 4370. And then I would normally ask you, how do we use that to find the left-hand portion? Well, remember when we talked about the characteristics for normal distribution curves, we said that the curve was symmetric with respect to the mean, which we said meant that the left-hand side of the curve and the right-hand side of the curve were symmetric, or that they were equal. And so if I know that this part is 4370, I also know that this part is 4370 because they are the same. So from this point on, I would simply tell you that if you have a negative value, look it up as a positive, but realize that it's the same on either side. So our answer to this problem would be 4370. So the last thing I want you to do right here is I want you to try a couple of these problems yourself. I've given you two. One where you're finding the area between 0 and 2.45, that's a positive one. And then one where you're finding the area from 0 to negative 1.95, and that's a negative one. And I've given you the two answers. I want you to try those. Draw your curves, shade the right section, and use your table to look up your values. If you have any questions or you don't get them correct, shoot me an email and let me know so that I can explain it further.